So, hello everyone, and welcome to this channel where people share their awakening stories of all sorts. And I'm very happy to welcome João. Did I pronounce correctly?
Yeah.
From Brazil. Thank you for coming by and sharing your experience. So actually, I would like to start with just that you introduce yourself, let people know where you are living, and yeah, what your daily life at this point is.
Well, so very, very nice to be here, Catherine, and thank you. And well, I live in Belo Horizonte. There is in the state of Minas Gerais, Brazil. But I was born in Rio, actually, in Rio de Janeiro. I was born in Rio, but there's been some 27 years now that I live here in Belo Horizonte. And here is more like the mountain region of Brazil, so it's not close to the sea. I love it. It's beautiful. The best food in Brazil is here in Minas. And uh, well, I guess the rest we can talk more. I guess when we start talking, I guess we'll be more clear where I am.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Perfect. So yeah. So then actually just let's start with you sharing your awakening, what was happening, and maybe also the path to arrive there. And I know it's like, what can we say? We talked about it a little bit before. It's not like one big awakening. Sometimes it's little steps, but just let us know where it actually started for you.
Well, so as I said, I was born in Rio, so it started there in Rio. No, so
That was how many years ago?
Well, almost 30 years now.
Okay.
And because I started searching for or having interest in spiritual things when I was about 15 years old. Well, it was, and I entered Aikido. I was practicing martial arts, Aikido. And I remember that I started reading things about Oriental philosophies and paths. I read the Bhagavad Gita and Tao Te Ching or Tao Te King, and also some books about Zen Buddhism, because Aikido is a very philosophical martial art. There is something about spirituality also. But then I guess when I was already practicing it for some 3 years or more, a little bit more maybe, there was a friend there. He was older than I, but I was about 17 or 18 years old. I guess I don't remember exactly, but I guess I was already vegetarian, following a vegetarian diet and so on. And then his friends, these friends of mine, he was already going to a Siddha Yoga group, so he invited me to go to Siddha Yoga.
Yeah.
And I went one day to one satsang meeting there, and I liked it very much. I liked the music. I liked the smell of the incense. I like the foods, the Indian food, typical food. I like the people. So I started to go there, to more frequently. And as you said, see, I had a big awakening, but before that, I had some small experiences, like peak experiences, like, and I remember one that was very, I guess, my first different experience was when I was watching one day that movie Little Buddha. You know that movie with
Yes.
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah.
And by at a certain point, the Lama dies, and the Lama Norbu, and then he starts to recite the Heart Sutra, Prajnaparamita. No eyes, no tongue, no ears. Emptiness is form is emptiness. And after reading, listening to that and watching, I entered an altered state of consciousness. I was very touched, very moved, and I entered a different state of consciousness, and I was feeling very light, very peaceful, very state of peace and joy, and so much that I believe that same day I went to the Siddha Yoga meeting, and I had friends there who were by my age, who were also young, like me, and they looked at me and said, "Oh, and they said, one of them said, "Your face is shining. You are different." Like, I was really feeling, I don't know, not enlightened, but lighted, lights, and but that lasted for some, one day or 2 days the most. That feeling, that state, and I had some similar experiences, some few experiences like that while I was there practicing Siddha Yoga.
Yeah.
And I became a very dedicated practitioner or devotee, or I don't know how to call it. I used to meditate every day. I used to go to all the meetings and do seva, seva, the work for the, and we had this youngsters group there. We used to meet outside the. I was reading everything I could also, by like Hindu scriptures and the books by Siddha Yoga and books about Kashmir Shaivism, all that.
Yeah.
Because by that time I already spoke English, so I could read the books, and but then when in 1995 I was about to be, I was going to be 21 years old. No? So my father came to me and asked me if I wanted to go to New York. I said, well, yeah, of course. No, he wanted to give, and he wanted to give me a kind of birthday gift, like, and I said, well, of course I want to go there, and but it happens that in New York there is an ashram of Siddha Yoga. There is the South Fallsburg ashram.
Yeah.
But the ashram is not in New York City. It's in the New York State. The Catskills Mountains. It's 2 hours, I guess, from New York City. And it's a very beautiful region where you have the forests and mountains, and it was a kind of tourist region there now. And so I said to him that I wanted to go, of course. And so I went to stay a month there, to stay the whole month, because my birthday is on June 29th.
Yeah.
So I was going to spend my birthday there also and stay a month, July maybe, I guess, all July, I guess.
Yeah.
So so I went, and I'll tell something that perhaps will make some sense after, something a little funny, but when I arrived there, I was expected to to have a bus, a little bus, a shuttle, I guess they call it. I don't know, to take me to the ashram.
Yeah.
But there was no bus available, so they sent a limousine, a white limousine, just to pick me up at the airport. You know, one of those big limousines, a white limousine. And the guy came, the guy who was there waiting for me in the airport, with that plate,
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it, well, but this just for me, this limo. I said, yeah, because we couldn't find the bus and so on. Said something. Okay, well, fine. So I arrived in great style, like in a limousine, white limousine there in the ashram. But so I arrived there, and there in the ashram you had some courses that you could do. You could inscribe yourself to do some courses, specific courses. And I inscribed myself to a specific one that was one about Gyaneshwar Gita. Gyaneshwar Gita is a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita written by a great saint of ancient India called Gyaneshwar Maharaj. And and this commentary became known as Gyaneshwar Gita. It's a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, And so I had read it, before in Rio, and it was translated by a Swami from Siddha Yoga, Swami Kripananda, who was one of the elder senior Swamis of Siddha Yoga. It was a very beautiful book, very beautiful translation. And I loved it, so I wanted to take this course, one of the courses that I described myself. And I don't know I don't remember exactly how it was. I guess I spent some days, some 2 or 3 days there. Then I went to this course there. There was in a big room there, a big saloon, a big room that there was in the ashram. And there was this Swami who was teaching the course. I guess Swami Shantananda, I guess. It was not Swami Kripananda herself who was giving the course. It was another Swami. And I remember that it was like morning and afternoon. You had, was almost like the whole day. It was like kind of workshop or something like that, And I remember that I went I was in the morning session, then I went to lunch, to have lunch, and then I came back. And I remember I sat in a couch, it was very comfortable. I was very sleepy, like after lunch, I was feeling a little drowsy, like sleepy. So I was sitting very lazily, very lazy, like there watching the Swami speaking, talking. And then at a certain point, I felt something in my navel area, like in the belly. And I was like, I was took by surprise, like, so wow. I thought that maybe I'm having some reaction from the lunch, the food. Maybe I'm feeling something like, I start feeling a vibration or something in that region and some heat. The first thing I remember I thought was maybe it was something about the food, something. But then it continued,
Yeah.
And then I don't remember how much time, or how much minutes, or I don't know. But then I felt that this sensation, this pulsation, continued, and then it went up, it raised to the chest area, to the heart area, and when it reached the chest, I felt like a love that I had never felt before. Like a love for everything, everyone. It was like kind of universal love, like
Yeah.
very, very intense,
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, I don't know how many minutes or how much time, it went up again, raised again to the forehead,
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that when it arrived in the head, I had this um, recognition, this awe. It was a kind of, I was like, no, I don't know, someone who may have looked at me at that time. I should be like, like my eyes open, like I was. I understood, like I say, I am Shiva. I had the only thought I have was this: I am Shiva. I said, oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
Shiva, and then after just after that, I felt a presence like I never felt before, or even after that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had a lot of experience after that with meditation, mindfulness, vipassana, all kinds of meditation. But I never felt a presence like that. I really felt like I was Shiva,
Yeah.
with my full presence, like all cells in my body, my mind, was like I felt like something had descended on me, like a presence, like was heavy, something heavy, like. And I stood there like for a while, like, and then after that, I really felt like I was Shiva.
Yeah.
So and was a presence, a very intense presence, feeling of presence. And
Yeah. So just shortly, because it's for me, it's really fascinating because every time when people tell their stories, I see parallels, to other people's stories or to mine. And when you wrote me this experience, I thought it's crazy because mine was so similar, especially because I was also sitting kind of very tired in a yoga class. It was a yoga class. I was in the yoga teacher training, and then she read a Buddhist text, the teacher, and I was sitting there, and I felt a very heavy sleepiness coming over me, and I just closed my eyes and I was just listening to this text, and then I had the same experience. So something was moving in my underbelly, and it was like a layer, an inner layer was not attached to my body anymore, so it was starting to move, and then it went up and out of my crown. But yeah, for me it was just very crazy, this experience. But then because the I felt very light then, and I was afraid exactly because of that, what you said. You sit there and you think, oh my god, all people will think she's crazy. So I was scared that I will have like epileptic, you know when I let it go. So I pulled back, I opened my eyes and I pulled it back, like with everything I could. And so this was for me the kick off of the energy in my body. And that's why I say this was the big moment for me. It all started there, and maybe this is the same for you. So yeah, but continue. But it's fascinating to hear. Yeah, we're not talking crazy. We have similar
yeah,
experiences when something like this happens. So
well, so as I said, I was feeling this presence, this very strong, and then I felt very energized, very, you know, uh, also. but then I started having some paranormal experiences, like, and I don't know if I should share that, but I feeling I feeling like Shiva,
Mm-hmm.
The Swami was teaching the course, and I thought, well, if I am Shiva, he must be listening to me. So I will say to him that now he should sit, and I force him now to the Swami, now sit, like you do to. And then I noticed that the Swami stopped teaching,
Mm-hmm.
and then he looked like this around, and then he sat.
Wow.
And then I said mentally, like, no, now you can't stand up. And then he looked again and stood up. So it was like, so I really must be Shiva, I guess. Like I was.
Crazy, right? And yes, it's
Yeah,
important that we talk about this and we are still normal.
yeah, more or less, normal, but it was very, very. And then I started having all these similar experiences there.
Mm-hmm.
But one that I had that was very interesting also, that later I found in the books also, that I don't remember if it was that same day or just after I left the room. I was there. I remember I was walking there in a corridor there somehow, and I felt something sweet in my mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and I was tasting that as well, but I haven't eaten any sweets or candy, nothing. It wasn't, but it was sweet, but it was different from
Mm-hmm.
any other sweets I knew. And then when I put the tongue at the how do you call it in yoga?
I don't know, but at the top, yeah.
The top of the mouth there, like. Then I felt that something dripping in
Mm-hmm.
the tongue, this sweetness, and then it filled my whole body. I felt like a big bliss
Huh.
that's thing
Nice.
coming from me. And I felt a bliss in the whole body. Like. And then I read about soma, and
Mm-hmm.
what they have the soma chakra, and it has this amrita. Amrita
Yes,
is this name
exactly.
of.
Amrita, yeah.
So I, I discovered that it was not only symbolic, something. It was literal.
Mm-hmm.
That is something physical, energetic. I don't know if it is some kind of hormone or substance. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so I had this experience, and I one thing that I also started happening a lot was synchronicities.
Mm-hmm.
I had synchronicities all the time happening.
Yeah.
Was like absurd, like all the time. I would think something, and boom, would
Yeah.
have some external confirmation or something.
How was that? How was that for you, this experience? Because I also had, but for me it was for a short period. It was quite often, but then I had 2 weeks where it became very intense, so that it was wearing me down. It was costing me a lot because it was too much of synchronicity, and I was really begging. I was starting to beg, like, please leave me alone now. I would just want to experience life again as normal, because it drained me. How was that for you as well?
No,
Or
for me at that moment was very very nice, very tranquil. Like
yeah.
it didn't bother me at that moment. It was more like a confirmation of what was going on. So it didn't disturb me at that point.
Yeah.
But I also had other experience, like when I sat to meditate in the caves. They have some rooms there that they call caves. There were dark rooms
Yeah.
where people would go to meditate.
Yeah.
And I would go out there to meditate. Like, I thought I had meditated for, let's say, 30 minutes, but then when I looked the watch, it was like 2 hours or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
I lost this notion of times many times. They're meditating. I would feel like 5 minutes, but it was like an hour or something. And I would come out of the meditation feeling very, very well, very blissful, very energized,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
refreshed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had all these experiences. So at a certain moment, I had a darshan with Guru Mai, the guru.
Mm-hmm.
There is a woman, Guru Mai, and she looked at me. She laughed. I said something. She laughed, and then she said I should do seva, more hard sevas. Like that I should eat. I remember she said I should eat banana and some, because I was too open.
Yeah.
So I should ground.
Yeah, me too. I had to do that as well. But my yoga teacher then told me eat pizza and no raw food. Go hug some trees, because I was really flying and my hair actually was like going up.
And I was, so she said I ate, and she sent me to do some hard working sevas, like carrying weights and things. Like these how can I say, physical labor, things like that. Then she sent me to talk to Swami Kripananda, the one who wrote the Yaneshwar Gita, who was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I sat with this Swami Kripananda in a coffee shop there in the ashram. We were eating ice cream, something like that. And I asked her at a point, I said, well, but that's it, like, oh, have I? And she said, yeah, that's it. I said, well, so what should I do now? Like, and she said, well, no, just do your stuff, do it seva and meditate. And so, well, okay, well, fine. And then they sent me to talk with Paul Miller Ortega. Paul Miller Ortega was one of the great scholars of Kashmir Shaivism. He was there too at that time in the ashram. And I talked to him, and he explains some things to me about Kashmir Shaivism and so on. So, well, I was there, living my simple, normal Shiva life, my normal Shiva life. And there was some synchronicity. The only book I took with me to the ashram was the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Bardo Todron.
I love it.
I bought it in the airport, the free shop, when I was going to the ashram. And I took it with me, and I was reading it sometimes there. And I remember one day I read a passage there, that said something like, now you're going to meet the skeletons, and so something like that, And I went to do a seva there, at the top, the roof of the temple.
Yeah.
I had to climb a very steep stair, and I was supposed to clean something there. And then someone said to me, no, you're going to find there is another guy there who will help you, and so on. And when I arrived there at the top of the temple, there was this guy all dressed in black, and his t-shirt was full of skulls, and he had a ring of skull. He was like a heavy metal guy, like there's that guy, what is the name of the Hell's Angels?
Yeah.
He looked like one of those guys of Hell's Angels, heavy metal, full of skulls, And I had just read something like in the Tibetan book of the dead, now you're gonna meet the skeleton. So this happened all the time, this kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, I start questioning the experience. Like, no, come on, I'm only 21 years old. I can't have attain enlightenment. This doesn't make sense, you know. Like I was starting questioning the experience.
Yeah.
Because I feel no. Yeah, I was indeed very green, you know, very immature at that point again. But I had that big experience, you know, that
Yeah.
and I also had an experience there, a little funny. Like I entered in the room there, and I started listening music, but very like Hindu music, but like a celestial music, like sitar, sitar instrument, and tambura, and this. But there was no one there playing the music, and I looked around to see if there was a speakers,
Wow. Yeah.
and there was nothing. Like I said, and then I started. I hear the laughter, a big laughter, like someone was laughing at me.
Wow.
So see, I guess it was the Gandharvas laughing at me.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. But what about physical symptoms? So did you feel the energy? Did you have
No,
any
no,
chaos? Nothing.
no. After that, I felt like I was super energized. I felt generally blissful, like well, and I guess I didn't sleep almost. No, I almost didn't sleep anymore. I was like I could sleep only an hour or two. I was feeling like I was plugged into the kind of cosmic powerhouse.
Yeah.
I was totally energized most of the time. But then I know, and then it all, I guess, the apex, the culmination of this process. I guess there was a lake there called Lake Nityananda, I guess. And they performed a ritual there somehow. And when I was coming back to the ashram, in front of the main entrance, there was a statue of Buddha, and then I somehow I was coming back from the lake, and I was passing in front of the statue, and I felt like admiring or looking at the statue of Buddha, But when I looked, a bird came and like sit in the shoulder of the Buddha. A bird came flying, but when the bird stopped in the shoulder, I felt like my whole life, perhaps lives, have passed in front of my mental screen like a movie, and then it seems like everything somehow converged to that moment, and I felt like my whole life made sense,
Wow.
And then I felt like a deep peace, state of peace, and I made a reverence to the statue, and I felt like if that closed something, like was I don't know, my whole life made sense. That single moment, like it was very much like one of those Zen stories, like the bird sat on the Buddha, and then boom, like I had that,
Yeah.
like everything, my life converged to that point, like that moment, and I felt very peaceful, I remember. But then, as I said, I was already questioning that, I said, no, come on. There was the little me there, the little João was they're acting like, no, come on, I can't be enlightened. Come on, I'm only, I'm just a guy, like, and
Yeah, I
and
totally.
I this started to grow, like this question, and it started to grow to a point that I started to become anxious because now then I thought about, I guess it was my self-preservation instinct somehow, that active. Because I don't know if you know very well the Kashmir Shaivism, theory. They say that when one receives Shaktipat, the the grace, from the master or from Shiva himself, there are 9 levels of Shaktipat. It's like there's superior, intermediate, and inferior, and then they divide it in 3.
Yeah.
And I've read it somewhere they divide it in 3 more. So in the
Yeah.
total would be 27 levels of Shaktipat. Funny, it looks like the Enneagram, Enneagram, you have also 3 that becomes 9, that become 27 subtypes,
Yeah.
But the Enneagram is horizontal, it's a typology person. But the Shaktipat is vertical, it's like levels of awakening. But they say that the superior level, now the most, they call it superior, they call it Tivra. The person lives only some weeks after it, like the person died.
Yeah.
And as I said, I was there reading to the Yaneshwar Gita course, and I don't know if you know, but Yaneshwar Maharaj, the saint, he died at 21.
Yeah.
He died very young. He had an awakening, I guess, at 14, and exactly as 21, when he reached 21, he died or disappeared or something.
Yeah.
And I was 21 there in the ashram.
Yeah.
My
Oh
birthday. I started, and I took with me the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So I was feeling like, well, maybe I can die now. Like, well, maybe okay, I have attained what I was supposed to attain. So I was feeling like I could die at that moment and that it would be okay. But something in me was not liking that idea, like, no, I know, no, I'm still very young. I can't be enlightened. I have to a lot to live yet, like.
Yeah.
And so I started questioning, but this questioning became anxiety, and this anxiety then became almost a panic, I was like, how can I turn it off? Like, how can I turn it off?
I
This
think it's just the way it goes, really. It's so funny. Also, I see so many parallels because for me it was also when this started to happen, when the energy started in my body, I was like, oh, nice, because I read this is what everybody wants, and then you're kind of on the peak, and then you understand, oh my God, this is just the beginning of a new understanding of life, and you will do the circle again and again and again. And I was also at a certain point, maybe 2 years into that, and I was really annoyed with the energy and the symptoms it made in my body. So I was asking my yoga teacher, so when does it stop? And then he was like, dear, it doesn't stop. This is, for me, it was like, oh, nice. And so when I'm through the process, then I'm just happy and blissful, but no. And it's, yeah.
No, yeah, and it was so intense, as I said. I was having all these paranormal experiences and these very deep meditative experiences and all that. But all those synchronicities, But these happened in, let's say, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I was supposed to stay there a month,
Yeah.
But then I started to get very agitated and very anxious about it. Like, how turn it off, like, how can I turn it off? Please. But then I guess I started to be anxious. So I felt like, no, I have to talk to Guru Maya now, to the guru.
Uh-huh.
No, I don't know. He has to help me somehow. And I started getting a little agitated, but I was not violent in any moment, nor aggressive.
Yeah,
So I went to a staff member there, someone who was from the. I said, no, I need to talk to Guru Maya again. Please, I don't know, I'm feeling strange. I don't know, I have to. And then she saw I was agitated, and she said, no, okay, so go to your room and we'll come for you. So okay. So I went to my room, the place I was staying there. I was staying with just me and another guy, a guy from New Zealand, I remember, an older guy. But he wasn't there at the moment when I was there in the apartment. Because there in this ashram was very big. It was like because it was in the past, I guess, a hotel compound.
yeah.
So there were many hotels, many buildings. So you from one place to another, you have to take a bus. It was like a mini city there, a small town actually.
Yeah.
It was very cool. So I went back to the place I was staying, the room, and after a while came a guy, a security guy, with a Doberman, a dog, and he said to me, "You are invited to leave the ashram." I said, "What?" I said, "No, you are invited to leave. Now you have to leave the ashram." I said, "What?" I said, "No, yeah." So he gave me back the money that I had paid in advance, and then I had, I guess, one more week to stay there somehow. So at least they turned me back the money.
Wow.
And then he said, "No." I said, "No, but I have to reschedule the air ticket. How can I go? I have to. My ticket is from, no, I don't know, a week from now or something." So now, okay, so you can call the air company. And I went there and I don't know, I talked to I remember it was a woman. So no, I have to come back to Brazil today. I had an emergency. And at that time, no, 1995, there were no cell phones, no computer, so I have no contact with my family, I couldn't call them. So I have to, imagine I was in the middle of that, and then he say, "No, I have to reschedule the ticket, the air ticket." And so I finally I made it. Somehow I could. She said, "Oh yeah, no, there is a seat. There is vacant, and so you can go." It was like the ticket was for the night, let's say. And it was in the morning. So I finally I could reschedule it, and then the guy took me to the local bus station. It was a very small cabin in the middle of the woods, like the forest, something place like that. And the guy took me there with the dog, with the Doberman, And I said, well, fine. When I arrived there, there were a lot of those Orthodox Jews, those guys dressed in black, those typical Jews with, those black clothes, that hats, all that. It was only me and them in the bus, So I took the bus to New York, back to New York I stopped in the central station, bus station there in Imagine I was leaving the ashram to the middle of New York City, all that chaos in the middle of the bus station, and then I had to take another bus to the airport, JFK. I don't know, a long period of the time when I was in the bus going to New York City, going back to New York City, there was that black car, that Undertaker, like you have in the Addams Family movie.
Yeah.
That car where they put the coffin.
Yeah.
typical of American movies. You know, you see a lot of those
Yeah.
black cars, big cars. You know, where they put the coffins there. You know, and the car was trying to trespass the bus. You know, and I looked at that one more synchronicity. You know, like I said, no, I'm really in the bardo. You know, I thought like I was with the book. You know, so it's like I read. So see, almost in 3 weeks, I arrived there in a white limousine, and
Yes.
left with that Adam's family car. You know, like
This is
so. Like
crazy.
I went from heaven to hell in 3 weeks, like
Wow.
more.
Wow.
It was like very. And then, so this was my
But why again?
initiation.
Why did they want you to leave the ashram? What was
Oh,
the
I think now today, I think they were totally irresponsible, totally incompetent, you know,
wow?
because I was having that experience. I was what 21 years old. I was, you know, I became anxious. I became, you know, I needed some help there. Not there. They kicked me out
This
of.
is crazy, huh? Oh,
See, so today I think that this was part of the initiation also in terms of the
oh
bigger picture.
yes.
No?
That
But in terms of the specific thing, I think they were very incompetent, you know, very irresponsible. Because if I was really have a kind of psychotic,
yeah.
I guess they were afraid that I was like getting psychotic or something.
Uh,
They just didn't deal with that, you know. They just kicked me out of the action, you know.
yeah.
But
Interesting.
then, but then I came to learn about, you know, when I arrived in Rio. uh, I had a friend. His father was a teacher in the university, you know. So they had a computer. By that time, computer was a very, you know, rare thing to find. You know,
Mhm.
not like today we have everybody has a PC or a cell phone or something.
Yeah.
So, and he looked at for me. He was a kind of non-believer guy. He was very scientific minded, you know. So when I came back to Rio, he searched something about Siddha Yoga in the web, you know, in the then web, you know, was
Mhm.
starting the internet, this thing. And then he found a website that was called Living Siddha Yoga, where there were many people who left Siddha Yoga who told stories similar to mine. And then there were all the stories of sexual abuse by Swami Muktananda and
Wow.
financial abuse by Guru Mai and all that stuff, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a full initiation, you know, because
Yeah.
I was initiated into the spiritual aspect of it, but also in the, let's say, political aspect of the thing
Oh
also,
yeah.
you know, like, and I could say firsthand like how these groups, you know, and these gurus and these things work, you know, like and so I came back to Rio, and I was my energy went like, you know, went out like a siphon.
Mm.
It was drained, you know,
Yeah.
and I was feeling very very bad, you know, like also guilty, you know, like have I done something wrong, you know, like because I was. But when I arrived at my parents' home, you know, they were not expecting me, you know. So when I arrived, they said, "Oh, what are you doing here? Like you know, you're supposed to." And I just wanted to go to my room, you know, and
Yeah.
stay there. I stood in my room for some 3 days, I guess. You know, I would only leave to take a shower and eat or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But then I started having a kind of another kind of experience, you know, crazy experience. I don't know. I guess after no, after some time, I talked to people who had similar experience, awakening experience, and they also experienced this that I experienced after. There was feeling like the shadow, your shadow self, merge, and I felt at that time. Sometimes I felt a rage that was almost like a beast, you know. So
Yeah.
I wanted to kill someone, like, you know, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to control myself not to, you know, if someone said something to me, or by that time I was already practicing martial arts, you know, that was like wanting to kill someone, but it was something almost uncontrollable, you know. And I
Yeah.
felt frightened with that. I said, "My God, what is that?" You know, I started to feel frightened uh, from about myself. You know, like no, and but then I started also some this experience happened also that I had impression that I was hearing people's thoughts. You know, people were saying something, and I was like listening to what they were really saying. You know, they're really thinking their minds. You know, so I would see the how people were lying. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
how this was common in our daily relationships.
Yeah.
People saying one thing and thinking others. You know,
Mm.
so I would be talking to someone, even my parents, and they were talking something, but I was like listening what they were really, and I started seeing how people were manipulative and even evil. You know, they're evil.
Yeah, but
For
also that they don't know themselves.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They are, but and something very weird happened also. Like sometimes, not one time, more than one time, people came to me and said, I saw you walking the other day, such a place, such a time, or I talked to you in the such a place, but places that I was not, you know. I
Wow.
know I was certain I was not there in
Mm.
these places at that time and that place at that time, you know. And some people came to me and said, "Oh, remember what I told you yesterday?" I looked like, yeah, of course, like no, but I wasn't there, you know. I didn't meet the person. I wasn't the place she. So it was something very weird, you know, that
So
happened.
what did you make out of this? You know,
I
what did
think it
you think?
was a kind of astral projection or something, or
Yes,
bio
or
or
just or
something
just
like that.
for me it
I don't know.
sounds for me it's because when you had that bliss state, I guess you also had that experience that it's really true that when you are in a other state of consciousness, the whole world reacts differently.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
for me, it's like maybe like being in two different vibrations at the same time.
yeah,
The
something
one
like that.
experiencing, I don't know because yeah, it's
Yeah, I don't know. The people, but people who came to me, oh, I told you, yes, we met there in the. Such, I remember there was I don't know how to say in English. It was a place where we would rent the. That time we didn't have, had to rent the VHS.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
to watch the movies, you know, and
Uh,
there was not even DVD, you know,
yeah,
it
yeah,
was only VHS. So you
yeah.
had to go to this place to rent
Yeah.
the
Videotape.
cassette, you know,
Yeah.
the tape, you know, and the guy said he swear that he saw me in this place and then we talked and then so well, but that time that he said I did that, I was at home, you know, there was no way I could be there, you know. So I said, maybe you. I said, oh, really? Maybe you thought, no, you confused. You were confused. You thought you talked to someone else, thinking that was me. Right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. It was very strange, this thing, you know. But then this friend of mine came with this. He printed to me these some articles from this website, Living City Yoga, and I read it, and I became very, you know, because I felt also that somehow people there in the group were treating me differently somehow, or They didn't expel me from the group here in Brazil, no, in Rio.
Yeah.
I was, but I don't know. I guess I was a little paranoid too, probably, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you know, not feeling very welcome, and I was very suspicious also of them, you know. And so at the same, it was 1995. These, you know, so it was in July, June, July when I went to the ashram. So by the end of the year, I guess December or November or somehow, my mom found that my father had another woman, you know, like she had another. So she wanted to get divorced, you know,
Mm-hmm.
from him. So she divorced from him. The next year, uh, she found out the woman and the, you know,
Mm-hmm.
my father had another family actually.
Oh my God.
So let's see, it was all in the same. I was still processing my experience, you know, all that happening.
Oh.
And then my mom finds these, and then she wanted to get divorced. And my mother, she's originally from the state I live now. This no, Belo Horizonte is the capital of the state of Minas Gerais, you know, here in Brazil. So my mother is originally from Minas Gerais, but from the country, you know, the interior. So she's from a very small town called Nhapim. So she didn't have where to go, so she went back to her hometown. To my grandmother was still alive by that time, so we went to live with my grandmother. No,
Yeah.
me and my sister. I have a sister, so me, my sister, and my mother, we moved to her hometown. And when we it was about also it was a year 1 year after my awakening experience, more or less. So we arrived because I remember we arrived there in her hometown. It was near to my birthday again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But my grandmother, she lived with two sisters and a brother who
Mm-hmm.
were older than her. So they were my, I'll say, grand aunts, grand uncle. I don't know how to call. And this I didn't meet. I didn't know my grandfather. No, my mother's father. He was he was dead before I was born.
Yeah.
So so this grand uncle, no, Uncle Joaquim, he was like my grandfather for me. You know, like, and he was a kind of figure. He was 90 years old by that time.
Uh-huh.
But when we arrived, 2 days later, he died.
Wow.
I wake up one day. I wake up, people taking him to the hospital, and then we arrived 2 days after he died. Like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so it was very hard time, you know, because I was processing all that. You know, I was moving from where I lived from 21 years now, living in Rio. Then I moved to this small town, and
Yeah.
I was used to go there, but you know, then I lost my grand my mom got divorced. My grandfather, no, I consider him my grandfather, died, and you know, so and then I finally I managed to get a transfer. I was transferred from the college. I was in Rio. I got a transference to the college here in Belo Horizonte, you know, because
Yeah.
I was studying geography at that time, the Federal University. So I got this transference. So I came then in '97. I came alone to Belo Horizonte
Yeah.
and to keep the college, you know, to continue studying. And but I was still, you know, processing all that. I was still feeling the energy, all that, and my shadow and everything. One
Crazy.
thing, some things that happened to me while I still was in Rio. The same guy who took me to Siddha Yoga, this friend from Aikido, he was doing a formation course in acupuncture.
Yeah.
So I talked to him a little, and so he took me to his teacher, and I did some acupuncture with the guy. I guess it helped me to start balancing the energy. Then I did some sessions of Reiki, Reiki,
Reiki.
Reiki,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Reiki, the therapy.
Yeah.
With another guy, I guess it helped me too. And but when I arrived in Belo Horizonte, in '97, then I started taking the Reiki formation, course. So I became a Reiki master, and I was initiated and so on. So I believe that helped me also to balance the energy.
Yeah.
But and then I became a Reiki master, Reiki teacher also. So I started working with Reiki, with Bach florals. It's Bach florals, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Florals.
Auch
Bach florals.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. I just know it in German. Yeah.
Bach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how the and also massage, shiatsu. I learned it. So I started working with that. But I was still, very moved energetically.
Mm-hmm.
But also, when I arrived in Belo Horizonte, it was when I met the Professor Naranjo's work with Enneagram.
Uh-huh.
Because here in Belo Horizonte was where the Professor Naranjo first arrived here in Brazil, was here in Belo Horizonte. So there was this group here, this center here, where they
Mm-hmm.
worked with the Enneagram. So I started I started also doing some psychotherapy, individual psychotherapy, and and I started doing this work with Professor Naranjo's group. But then I moved to Tibetan Buddhism because I met my wife in the university. She was studying philosophy, and I met her there, and she was already practicing Tibetan Buddhism because by that time there was a great Lama who moved to Brazil. Was the first Lama who came to live here. It was a great respected Lama. It was called Shagdu Tuku Rinpoche. And Shagdu Tuku Rinpoche he was living in the United States, then he came to Brazil to build a temple here in the southern region. But there was a Sangha here in Belo Horizonte also. And so my wife was already going there practicing. So when I arrived here in Belo Horizonte, I still went to some Hindu-like groups, like even Siddha Yoga. I went to the Siddha Yoga group here once or twice. Then I went to the Self-Realization Fellowship, the Yogananda group. Then I went to the Ananda Marga. Then I went to Hare Krishna, Sai Baba. I was still connected to this Hinduist.
Uh-huh.
But then my wife was practicing Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, and I had this connection with Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
I said my first peak experience, my first was watching Little Buddha. As I said, and
Yeah. So
I
nice.
took
Yeah.
that Tibetan Book of the Dead to the ashram.
Yeah.
I had that experience that with the Buddha statue.
Sure. Yeah.
So I felt I had a connection with Buddhism also.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
when I went to a session of a Lama connected to Shagdu Tuku Rinpoche while I was still in Rio. Once I went to a, so there was a connection I felt. So my wife was already there. So I started practicing Tibetan Buddhism then. I moved to Tibetan Buddhism, and I was doing that work, Enneagram work, with the Sat school. Sat, the school of Professor Naranja is called Sat. That it means Sat in Sanskrit, that is truth, but it is also is a acronym for seekers after truth.
Yeah.
Sat means seekers after truth. So so I started doing the work there with the Enneagram, all those. And I went also, by that time, I went also to the Gurdjieff group, here in Brazil, Gurdjieff. And that is connected to this Enneagram tradition, you know. And
so you work a lot also with Enneagram.
yes.
Yeah,
And
maybe
so
I will do you have a good link where Enneagram is described? Because I will do it in the comment section that people understand what we're talking about.
I have the best links actually are in Spanish, but there are some in English also. Maybe I can.
Yeah, send me
But
one.
because
Yeah.
Professor Naranja, he moved to Spain
Mm-hmm.
after a while, so most of the good stuff, at least, is in Spanish, not in, but there are some things in English also. But
Yeah, no, that's good. The point is we're nearly 1 hour into, so actually we slowly have to find an end. But I would love to have another talk because you
yeah, I had a much more to talk about.
yes, I really
But,
because you
but
talked about before that you really also would love to talk about, you know, the collective and what it means for that. And
yeah,
I'd love to have another talk.
I can summarize maybe just a little, very summarize.
Yeah, yeah.
So I started doing this work with Professor Naranja, but I only met him in person in 2003. You know, so it took 8 years for me to meet him in person. But when I met him, I had a kind of second awakening experience. You know? So it was very strong too for me. And Professor Naranja, he knew Siddha Yoga. No? He met the Swami Muktananda in the 70s. So he was very aware of these kind of Kundalini awakening experiences and Kriyas and Shaktipat and all that. But he was also very deep into Tibetan Buddhism. You know, his main connection was actually with Tibetan Buddhism. So for me was when I met him, he really helped me to integrate and start to really understand what happened there in the ashram. And so for me, it was like finding a safe harbor, safe haven. Like he really understood me, and he really helped me, you know. And we got more close. More, we started to correspond, you know, through email very frequently. He even gave me his notebook, Macintosh. He gave me a Macintosh notebook. So we started having conversations very frequently, you know, and about many things, but also about my own process, of course, you know, my own stuff, personal stuff, but also about the Enneagram, about spirituality, about many things also. But I don't know, maybe that's another story, maybe.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And that, but yeah, no, it's been a lot of things happened after I met him also, you know. So I don't know. Probably we won't have time here now to tell, but
yeah, but we will do another one.
One of the things that I would like to perhaps just to close this session is that the thing that I sent you, I guess I sent you a text about Professor Naranja. He's talking about the ascent and the descent of the Kundalini, you know, and he wrote a lot and talked a lot about the hero's journey, you know, that there's as a allegory or a symbol of the stages of the path, you know.
Yeah,
and he divided the path in what he called the two journeys. Was the journey of ascent and the journey of descent, you know. So and he compared it, for example, in the literature, the Iliad of Homer and the Odyssey, you know. He said that in these classic myths, the hidden meaning for him was this. It was a description of the journey, the spiritual journey, the soul journey, actually. So he said it had two stages, you know, basic. But these stages have many sub stages actually, but were basically, and then in this journey of descent, is when you said it was even harder than the journey of ascent, because
Yeah.
when you go up the mountain, so to speak, it's already hard. It's very few people have this experience actually compared to the majority, but the journey of return or the journey of descent is even harder, to come back to
Ah,
the world
so
and
true.
bring this experience to our daily lives and to be
Mhm.
functional somehow in the world. That's really hard.
Yeah.
And I believe, especially in these times we are living, because we are living perhaps the major crisis in human history now. Because
Hmm.
I believe we have these three great issues in our times that are climate change, the risk of a nuclear war again, no, because we had it in the Cold War, now during those times of Soviet Union, but now perhaps it's even more dangerous. And we have this danger, this issue of this new rising, new fascist movements and leaders who are demolishing democracy, and the civilization actually. So it's so I believe we are in very critical times, and I believe, as Professor Naranjo taught, that these experiences of ours may be somehow the world soul. No, the world soul is working through us, through people who are awakening,
Yeah.
in order perhaps to help in this process. In
Hmm.
this, some people call planetary transition, or global dark night of the soul, or global initiation, or planetary initiation, whatever one wants called. But I believe that the more people awaken and the more people advance in their journeys, they make not only the journey of ascent, but also come back and help. Perhaps this can help in this process, but I don't know. We are still in the making, in the process. I know I
Yeah.
haven't finished the journey yet, and most people. So I don't know. No, I felt like I told her that I should share my experience, that perhaps it may be helpful to others who are on the path
Yeah.
to
It's so
see
beautiful.
similar experience, and to different experiences also, and similar. I don't
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah, and I think it's so nice to hear these stories of people who are just normal, you know, and that it really, yeah, it can happen to anyone, and you shouldn't be afraid. You're not crazy. So I think it's really, really crucial to start talking about it, because I had my difficulties until I found really reliable sources. So
yeah.
also, I didn't quite understand at the beginning what it was, but then I was reading about Kundalini. But there is also a lot of strange stuff out there. It's like, it's really still like a fairy tale, and people, they read about it like this is something you really should achieve, and it's the most beautiful thing. And yeah, people are not aware how much shadow work has to be done before it gets really blissful. And when you push it too hard, it can be a horror. So, and I think we
Yeah.
should really
Yeah.
discuss about that. It's not something just blissful. And if somebody tells me, oh, I had a Kundalini experience, it's just beautiful, and now I'm happy, I'm a bit yeah, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and no, and the thing I thought, just to summarize, I told you that I had that shadow experience in the beginning. Then I had a lot of personal work, working my stuff through the Enneagram after that. But I thought I was in this first dark night, so to say, was
Mhm.
working off my personal stuff. But
Yeah.
then after we didn't reach this point, but in 2012, from 2012 to now, I entered another period of a deeper dark night. But I felt it also was very connected to a kind of collective dark night. Because by that same time in Brazil, we were going through very hard times here, like political turmoil, and there was a soft coup d'état, like there was a regime change here, Brazil became really a mess, like in the last 10 years or so, especially in the last 4 years when the ex-president, thank God, Bolsonaro was elected, So we went through our own kind of collective dark night. And I also realized how there are some dark forces behind all these, operating consciously also, So we have I realized that in the second dark night, I kind of connected with this collective shadow, so to speak.
Yeah,
I saw that there are really some dark stuff around, and this dark stuff gets people, and these naive people, these people who are still immature, and they get caught by these, these dark forces, and believing they are evolving, they are, finding the light, but actually they are being caught sometimes in very dark stuff.
Yeah,
And
I see that as well, especially with all the conspiracy theories where people really get hooked and they stay there. It's like, because I know out of my experience, actually conspiracy theories, they can be a catalyst to an awakening, but most people they hang there in one dogma and they don't come out. So the conspiracy theories for me are catalysts, and when you do it right, you will go all the way down the rabbit hole, and then you will have it was my way to have a really profound awakening, but only because I didn't go with the dogmas. I was always, no, this is not true. So I just wanted to know the truth, and I didn't want a dogma to hang on to so that I feel safe. I really wanted to have somebody rock my truth away so that I see the real truth. Yeah. So
so there are many layers in this awakening process,
Yeah.
When we go further in the journey, we start realizing that not all that shines is gold,
Yeah. And you really have to be careful, that you don't out of fear again, you just believe in something that,
we know there are many problems. You also gurus, abusive schools and groups, and so there are a lot of traps on the path,
Yeah, and
I have fallen in some of them, so I can know.
Yeah, we can talk about this as well another time. So, but let's stop here so that it won't get too long, and then we have another chat and we talk more about the collective and the pitfalls. I think that's also a very important topic.
No, just one more thing I would like to say is this: that you're talking about these people coming together and sharing experiences. That Buddhist master, Thich Nhat Hanh, he said that the next Buddha would be a collective Buddha. Because today we don't. It's very hard to find real great masters. Totally enlightened masters. So it's very hard, to find real. So I guess this process of sharing our experiences
so beautiful
may be helpful, in order to create this kind of culture, about the journey, about the process,
This is very beautiful.
Kind of common culture. So I hope so.
Exactly, to bring people together and not be afraid anymore to tell your truth. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and
So,
create this network, this web of,
mhm.
I think this is great. So thank you very
Thank
much,
you so
Catherine.
much. And yeah, let's keep in touch and find a new date, and then we go on.
My pleasure, my honor.
Oh,
Anytime. Just
okay.
tell me.
And
Okay.
yeah, I will contact you afterwards. So thank you so
Okay.
much for sharing your story, and here soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody. See you next time.